That's right.
Like, what do you think? What's working especially well for people who are trying to transition into more purposeful work?
Yeah, I think the first thing is knowing for themselves what that purposeful work means. So I think that's a lot of that reflection, and I think that's a lot of the first step that, when I have clients, that's what we work through. It's that, hey, what's not purposeful about today? What's missing? And
Yeah.
kind of doing that again, business term, bringing that gap analysis in to say, hey, what do I need to go focus on next? Because I think once you can really articulate that, then you know what you can go ask for. And I think
Mhm.
that's where engaging with a community, engaging with your network, people want to help. I think we all appreciate and we all have this sense of wanting to find purposeful work. And so when somebody comes asking, we all want to help. Generally
Right.
speaking, we all want to help. So I think
Mhm.
that's the maybe the path is that self-assessment, that knowing what you really want, being able to communicate that, and then reaching out for help and building meaningful connections. And I think that also ticks that box of like, hey, now you're helping somebody else or you're engaged with somebody else and you're not necessarily going it alone.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So where do you think like most professionals get stuck? Like in mindset, expectations, external
Mm,
pressures. What do you think about that?
yeah, I think maybe the first spot that they get stuck is the sense of climbing the ladder should be fulfilling. I think it's the hey, again back to that idea of like I want to be a vice president someday. So as long as I'm progressing from like an analyst to a senior analyst to a manager, if I'm climbing the ladder, that should be fulfilling. I'm working towards that goal. So I think that's that point of being stuck of I've been working for 10, 15 years. I'm a director now, but I'm not happy or I'm not like feeling the sense like that I felt like I was promised I would from this, like chasing this goal. So I think
Mhm.
that's really the first piece is kind of reframing what career success looks like and kind of moving from that sense of external, hey, this is what the company I work for recognizes me for, to am I really getting that sense of meaning from the work that I'm doing? Am I energized when I leave the office or am I, you know, batteries completely drained? I think that's the first place that they get stuck. And then I think the other is again the sense of time. So
Yeah.
whether it's, hey, I'm comfortable and I'm not moving, so it's if I keep waiting it out, or that, like we talked about before, that short term, you're stuck because I'm jumping around so much. And I did that early in my career too. It was,
Mhm.
hey, I'm not moving, so I'm going to move. I moved 5 companies in 4 years just to try and find, what's
You
the next
couldn't
thing that
feel
I
like
need.
you couldn't actually like there are some people that they would say that they're enjoying that kind of being uncomfortable or being in
Yeah,
some pain.
absolutely. Yeah, and there's something for that. So I'd say I won't discount that because I think there is this sense of like, as long as you're moving, like making those moves and being uncomfortable and you keep pushing yourself and you're growing, I think that's okay. But I think it'll reach a point where that story only goes so far and you're bound to run out of employers that are going to give you a chance. Because if your track record says anything, it's like, all right, I'm going to train you. And by the time I trained you, you're going to be out the door. So I'd rather go with somebody that's going to be around for,
Right,
maybe 5, 10 years.
right, right. Like they're not actually spending this much with someone who gonna like leave as soon as they get the next opportunity out there.
Exactly.
And
And I
they
think
can
maybe
commit
that's
to
the
them.
challenge back to employers as well to say, how do you develop talent that gets in the door?
Right.
So how is it, it's not just this is the role and I'm going to hire somebody for this role, but I want to hire somebody for the next 3 roles that I want them to have and create that
Mhm.
path for them to grow and develop.
I see. Right. So, do you see common blind spots leaders have when they think about their own career journey?
I think for me, the biggest blind spot comes down to how they talk about their journey because I think I don't know if you have experience or any of your listeners will have experience, but there might be like you work for a company and there might be like a fireside chat where some leader comes on and they're meant to talk about their career. The blind spot that I see is when they say, I don't know how I can tell people how to replicate this. I was just in the right place at the right time. Or like, I think that's the blind spot because it again shifts from a nice story or it shifts from like meaningful career advice to you're telling a
Yeah.
nice story, but it doesn't help anybody to follow you. Like it doesn't
Mhm.
show the path that you walked. And maybe some of it was luck. There's luck in everything. But I think for them to go back and say, what were the things that I did? What were the steps that I took? How did I prepare myself? How did I
Right.
position myself? Those are the things that I think are incredibly useful to anybody listening to that, especially those young in their career that can really have a lot of flexibility in how they position. So it's
Mhm.
for me, that's that blind spot is just like chalking it all up to dumb luck and like
Right.
making it a nice story.
Right. That's totally right. So for future, like, where do you want to take progress over perfection coaching in the next 6 to 12 months?
Oh, it's a good question. Honestly, for me, We talked about, different points in life and different points in career. I'd say I'd known that I wanted to move into HR for some time. And so I'd
Right?
say I was really leaning heavy into coaching because the work I was doing before I moved into it wasn't scratching the itch that I had. So I was doing a
Oh,
lot more and putting a lot more energy into the coaching side of things. So I had a podcast that I'd run for a few years, and I don't want to say that it's dead, but it's been a minute since I've I've done a new episode. And I was taking on a lot of new clients. Since I moved into HR, obviously I'm learning a new set of skills, but I'm finding my day-to-day job is giving me satisfaction that I was getting a lot from coaching as well. So the urgency isn't there. Like I still love coaching and I love taking on new clients, but I'd say I don't have super ambitious or well like sketched out goals necessarily for my external coaching because I'm getting a lot of that internal. So for me, it was again trying to find that balance between where I'm spending my time. So, I mean, for me, to get to your question, not completely avoid it, I'd say 6 to 12 months. I'd love to have, 2 or 3 new clients that I'm working with over an extended period of time. And then, ambitiously, I'd like to say I want to do one new podcast episode at least this year. So going from doing one every couple of weeks to it's been a couple of years now, but those are on the radar since we're talking new
yeah.
year especially. So resolutions, something to aim for.
We're waiting for your comeback though. Like I'll be
Appreciate it.
yeah, like I'll be watching that myself. All right. So are there specific challenges you're seeing that professionals need help with right now?
Yes. Again, I think the biggest piece comes down to expectation setting. So I think it's the how quickly do they expect to move or to grow, and that could be
Mhm.
pay, that could be experience, that could be responsibility versus the company that they work for, the organization that they work in. So I think the sense of misalignment. So and a lot of
Yeah.
that comes from anxiety around like I want to move faster. I feel like I deserve more. I feel like I'm given only positive feedback. Why am I not moving faster? So I think it goes both ways, but I think that individuals can control a lot of this in terms of conversations. I think if they feel this way, they can talk to their manager and kind of not challenge, but I mean, seek to understand like, I'm given all this feedback. How do I frame that? Like, what this all positive feedback?
Yeah.
Why am I not moving faster? Or understand what's the reality of things. There's not always a pay raise that's available. So like, how do I set expectations? And I think it's that in any kind of communication, it's that misalignment of expectations that's where friction ends up getting
Yeah, yeah.
created. So
I see the key of this is the communication.
yeah, absolutely. So I think it's again for the individual, what do they
Mhm.
want? What and being really clear about that, but then also being receptive, say just because I want it doesn't mean I can get it. So it's but then the manager to say, here's what I can offer, here's what it looks like. And then knowing too, there's even external things. So when you talk about a big organization, that some things they can't change by themselves and things don't necessarily move as quickly as we all want.
That's right. So, if you could solve just one major career or leadership challenge for your audience, what would it be?
I think it comes down to being able to really articulate a sense of purpose. What is that? Call it the ikigai, or what is it? What is it that you really want? Like, and being able to articulate that. I think that's where, as I talk with others, it becomes this. I don't know what I want, but it's not this. So I think it's spending the time to really break it down and not multitask, but really focus on, hey, how do I build this inventory of what am I good at? What are the things that I'm really good at? And what are the things that I really love to do? And trying to break those down internally to at least understand that about themselves,
Mhm.
because then they know what they're looking for. I think that's like the biggest piece that I see those struggling with. That I think once you have that, the conversation becomes much easier because then you've shifted more into
That's right.
that action planning and that transformation and less of this. The self-discovery is great, but I think that's what I want people to do more
Right.
of, and what I try and encourage when I work with clients. It's like we got to start here before
Yeah.
we figure out a game plan.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for sharing that. So, before we end that, do you have a piece of advice that you would give to the younger generation starting in their career, or that you like for someone who's shifting to coaching,
Hmm.
as you're doing? Like, what would be your advice?
I think I think for anybody early in their career, I'd say don't underestimate the power of an authentic network. I think it's really easy for people to, shoot off a LinkedIn message like, "Hey, I really want to connect, da da da. Hey, we're connected on LinkedIn. We're a network." Making real connections, and I think obviously in person is best
Yeah.
generally, depending on your personality, it might be more uncomfortable, but making those connections in person. So where you work,
Mhm.
the communities that you're in, build that network and have that support system. Because again, I firmly believe that everybody wants to help somebody else. So I think if you know more about somebody, then you know how you can help them. So I think
Right.
building a legitimate network. And again, I say legitimate, it's wrong, authentic network. And so again, being really intentional, not just a how many connections can I have? I've got a huge network, but being
It's
really
about
focused around
quality,
that.
not the
Absolutely.
quantity of those connections.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then I think as far as coaching goes, for those that want to get into coaching, I'd say there's a lot of different, it's a broad spectrum for getting into coaching. There's anybody can be a coach. Anybody can, ask
Mhm.
powerful, meaningful questions and really be there to listen to somebody and try and help encourage growth. But if you really want to do it professionally, I'd say there are more recognized ways to do it. So there's, things like certification, doing certain hours, and really like anything, those are all
Right.
built around how do you get in the reps? How do you build the muscle? It's not just something that, some people are really natural at it, but practice never hurt anybody there. So I'd say if you want to do it and you want to get into coaching, like figure out how you can be really intentional about trying it. Ask a friend, ask a colleague, like, hey, here's something that I want to try, or just being available. So I think that's probably the advice I'd give there.
That's right. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate sharing all those things with our audience. I believe it's gonna be helpful for all the audience out there listening to that. So thank you, Patrick, for joining today. And
Thanks
thanks
for
for
having me.
yeah, thank you. Thanks for our audience and see you in the next episode.